For so long you've been taught to give, to sacrifice, to pour yourself into others. But tell me, how can a cup that is empty give water? How can a heart that is broken truly love? The truth is simply, until you learn to love yourself more than anyone else, you will always be searching for pieces of yourself in others. Today I will teach you why self-love is not selfish. It is survival, it is strength, and it is freedom. When you look at the foundation of any strong building, what do you notice? It is not the walls, not the roof, but the ground it stands upon. If the foundation is weak, no matter how beautiful the structure is, one storm, one earthquake, and it will collapse. The same is true for you. Your foundation in life is self-respect. Without it, everything else becomes fragile. Your relationships, your dreams, even your own happiness. So many people spend their entire lives trying to earn respect from others, hoping someone will see their worth, hoping someone will finally treat them the way they deserve. But here lies the mistake. If you do not respect yourself first, how can anyone else know how to respect you? People mirror back to you what you project. If you treat yourself as an afterthought, others will do the same. If you allow yourself to be an option, others will never make you a priority. Think for a moment. How often have you compromised your own dignity just to keep someone in your life? How often have you silenced your truth, ignored your pain, or accepted less than you deserve because you were afraid of losing someone? This is the painful reality of not valuing yourself. You trade your peace for their presence, forgetting that your presence is just as valuable, if not more. Respecting yourself means understanding one simple truth. You set the standard. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you speak to yourself with negativity, if you constantly put yourself last, if you stay in places that drain you, you are giving silent permission for others to do the same. But when you choose differently, when you carry yourself with dignity, when you hold your head high and walk away from what insults your soul, you create a new standard, one that demands respect without you ever having to say a word. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is not about believing you are better than anyone else. It is about realizing that you are not beneath anyone either. It is about standing tall in your own value without apology. When you carry that energy, people feel it. They sense that you are not desperate, that you are not begging for approval, that you are not willing to accept crumbs of affection. They see that you know your worth. And because of that, they rise to meet it. But self-respect must be practiced daily. It is in the small choices. It is in the way you respond when someone crosses your boundaries. It is in the way you speak to yourself when you look in the mirror. It is in the way you walk away from gossip, from disrespect, from toxic energy that tries to pull you down. Every moment you choose self-respect, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you choose dignity over desperation, you become unshakable. And here is the beauty. When you value yourself deeply, love flows more purely because now you are not looking for someone else to fill the emptiness inside you. You are not chasing validation. You are not dependent on approval. Instead, you are whole. And when you are whole, the love you give to others is no longer desperate. It is generous. It comes from abundance, not from lack. Remember this. You are not an option. You are not a backup plan. You are the main character in your own life. And the moment you decide to respect yourself as such, everything changes. Because once your foundation is unshakable, no storm can break you. Most people misunderstand boundaries. They think boundaries are about pushing people away, about building walls so high that no one can enter. But boundaries are not walls. They are gates. And gates have locks. Yes, but they also have keys. You decide who comes in, and you decide who stays out. That is the essence of self-love. Having the courage to protect your peace and the wisdom to choose what deserves your energy. Many of you have been conditioned to believe that saying no is rude, that turning people away makes you selfish, that sacrificing yourself for others is what makes you a good person. But let me ask you, when you say yes to everyone else while saying no to yourself, what happens? You become exhausted, drained, resentful. You lose your spark. And when your energy is gone, when your heart is empty, what do you have left to give? Nothing. The truth is, boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. They are the highest form of self-respect and therefore the highest form of love. Think about the times you stayed quiet when you should have spoken. The times you let people cross lines that made you uncomfortable, but you smiled anyway because you didn't want to upset them. The times you accepted less than you deserved because you were afraid that setting standards would drive people away. Every one of those moments chipped away at your self-worth. Every time you put someone else's comfort above your own dignity, you taught yourself that your feelings didn't matter, but they do. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling yourself. You cannot force someone to respect you, but you can refuse to engage with people who don't. You cannot stop someone from lying, manipulating, or taking advantage. But you can choose not to stay where those behaviors are tolerated. That is what boundaries mean. You take back your power by deciding what you allow and what you don't. And here is something important. People who truly love you, people who truly respect you, will never be offended by your boundaries. They will appreciate them because they know that a person who protects their energy, who guards their heart, is someone who can also give love in its purest form. The ones who get angry when you draw a line are usually the ones who benefited from you having none. Their discomfort is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that you are finally choosing yourself. When you set boundaries, you send a message to yourself: I matter, my time matters, my energy matters, my heart matters. You no longer run after people just to keep them close. You no longer accept excuses for disrespect. You no longer let guilt be the chain that keeps you tied to what is unhealthy. Instead, you create space, space for peace, space for healing, space for the right people who will value you without needing to cross the lines you set. So understand this clearly. Every time you say no to something that insults your soul, you are saying yes to something greater: your growth, your peace, your freedom. And every time you choose to protect your boundaries, you are building a stronger relationship with yourself. Because at the end of the day, boundaries are not about keeping others out. They are about keeping yourself whole. And the moment you decide to honor your boundaries, you stop living in fear of losing others and start living in the power of never losing yourself. The voice that speaks to you the most each day is not the voice of your friends, not the voice of your family, and not even the voice of your enemies. It is your own. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, your inner voice is there, whispering, commenting, judging. And for many people, that voice is not a friend. It is a critic. It tells you that you are not good enough, not beautiful enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. It reminds you of your failures. It replays your mistakes. It compares you to others. And with every repetition, it shapes how you see yourself, how you walk into the world, how you live your life. If you were to speak to a child the way you sometimes speak to yourself, that child would be broken within days. Yet you carry this weight for years, sometimes decades, believing that this harshness will push you to improve. But understand this: criticism does not create growth. It creates fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of never being enough. And when you live in fear, you stop reaching for your true potential. You shrink yourself to fit the doubts you've been repeating. The mind is powerful, but it is also obedient. It believes what you tell it. If every day you tell yourself you are weak, you will walk through life with your shoulders down. If you tell yourself you are unworthy of love, you will settle for the bare minimum just to feel wanted. But if you begin to tell yourself something different, if you begin to affirm your strength, your value, your beauty, then slowly the mind starts to believe that too. And when the mind believes it, the body follows. the actions follow. The entire energy of your life begins to shift. This is not about empty positive thinking. This is about training your inner voice the same way you would train a muscle. It takes discipline. It takes repetition. When your critic says you failed, you respond with I learned. When your critic says you are not enough, you answer I am growing, I am becoming, I am already worthy. When your critic says you will never succeed, you counter every step I take brings me closer. This is how you rewire the patterns that have been limiting you for so long. It is not easy at first. The critic has been loud for too long, and its words may feel more believable than your affirmations. But over time, as you continue to speak with kindness to yourself, something begins to change. The critic loses power. The voice of doubt becomes softer, while the voice of encouragement grows stronger. And when you carry encouragement within you, you no longer need to chase it from others. You are no longer dependent on external validation, because the validation you give yourself is constant, unshakable. Imagine waking up each day and hearing your own voice say, I am capable, I am worthy, I am enough. Imagine how differently you would carry yourself into your work, into your relationships, into your challenges. That confidence, that calmness, that quiet strength, it does not come from others telling you who you are. It comes from you telling yourself and believing it. So listen carefully to the voice within, because if it is not your friend, it will be your enemy, and no enemy is more dangerous than the one living in your own mind. Train that voice to be your greatest ally. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love deeply, because you do love yourself deeply. You must. And the moment you silence the critic and replace it with compassion, you will discover that the world outside no longer has the power to break what you have already healed within. So many people carry the weight of others on their shoulders, always trying to fix, to save, to heal. It comes from a place of love, yes, but also from a deep misunderstanding. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give strength while you are collapsing inside. You cannot light the way for someone else while stumbling in your own darkness. Healing yourself first is not selfish. It is essential. Think about what happens when you board an airplane. Before takeoff, the attendants always remind you, if the oxygen mask drops, secure your own mask first before helping others. Why? Because without air, you will collapse. And if you collapse, you can save no one. This is the same principle in life. If you ignore your own pain, if you bury your wounds just to keep others comfortable, sooner or later, you will burn out. And the love you tried so hard to give will turn into bitterness, exhaustion, even resentment. Some of you live in this cycle right now. You wake up tired, but still you show up for everyone else. You silence your own struggles because you don't want to be a burden. You put others' happiness above your own healing, hoping one day someone will notice, someone will give back what you have given. But very often people don't notice because you've trained them not to. You've taught them that your role is to carry, to fix, to sacrifice. But inside you are emptying yourself to heal yourself before helping others is not abandoning them. It is preparing yourself to truly be there for them in the strongest way possible. A broken person trying to heal another broken person often creates more pain. But a healed person, a whole person, can guide, can inspire, can uplift without losing themselves in the process. That is why your first responsibility is not to save the world. It is to save yourself. Healing means acknowledging your own wounds. It means giving yourself permission to rest, to reflect, to let go of what has been eating at your soul. It means forgiving yourself for past mistakes. Understanding that the lessons you learned were necessary to shape you into who you are becoming. Healing is not linear. Some days you will feel strong, and some days you will feel like you are starting all over again. That is okay. What matters is that you do not abandon yourself in the process. And here is the paradox. When you take time to heal, when you take time to restore your energy, you become more capable of helping others than you ever were before. Because now you are not giving from emptiness. You are giving from abundance. You are not helping out of obligation, but out of true compassion. You are not dragging yourself to rescue someone else. You are standing firmly and reaching out a steady hand. But to reach this point, you must stop believing that your worth is measured by how much you sacrifice. You are not valuable because you suffer for others. You are valuable because you exist, because you carry light within you, because you have something unique to give. And the brighter that light shines, the more naturally it illuminates others. So remember this truth. Before you try to heal anyone else, you must first heal yourself, because the strongest gift you can give to others is not your sacrifice, but your wholeness. One of the greatest shifts in life happens the moment you stop waiting for others to make you feel complete and start enjoying your own presence. Too many people live in a constant state of waiting, waiting for someone to call, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to tell them they are beautiful, worthy, or loved. And in this waiting, they forget the most important truth. You already have the power to give yourself what you keep hoping to receive from others. Think about how often people run from themselves. Silence feels uncomfortable. Being alone feels heavy. So they distract themselves with noise, with endless scrolling, with relationships that don't truly serve them. But here is the secret. If you are afraid of being alone with yourself, it means you have not yet made peace with who you are. Because once you do, solitude becomes strength, not punishment. It becomes a gift. Celebrating your own presence is about realizing that your worth is not measured by who stands beside you. You are not valuable because someone chooses you. You are valuable because you exist, because you breathe, because you carry within you a spirit that no one else in this world can replicate. The day you embrace this truth is the day you stop begging for scraps of attention and start living in the fullness of your own being. Many people think they need someone else to complete them. But listen carefully. You are never half of anything. You are already whole. A relationship, a friendship, even family can add to your life, but they cannot define it. When you are comfortable in your own skin, when you can sit in silence and feel peace, when you can walk into a room alone and still feel powerful, that is when you know you have discovered freedom. And something beautiful happens when you reach that point. You stop settling. You no longer chase after people who don't see your value. You no longer accept disrespect just to avoid loneliness. You no longer shrink yourself just to keep someone by your side. Why? Because you know your own company is enough. You know you bring light to the spaces you enter. You know that if someone cannot appreciate you, it is not your loss, it is theirs. Celebrating your own presence does not mean isolating yourself from others. It means learning to enjoy life regardless of who is around. It means taking yourself on that walk, that dinner, that journey you've been waiting for someone else to join you on. It means looking in the mirror and smiling because you like the person you are becoming. It means realizing that your happiness is not delayed until someone else arrives. It is here. It is now. It is within you. And when you carry this energy, when you radiate this confidence, people feel it. You no longer attract out of desperation, but out of abundance. You no longer need people to fill an emptiness because you are already full. The connections you form from this place are healthier, stronger, more genuine because they are a choice, not a need. You choose to share your wholeness with others, not to use them to patch your brokenness. So never fear being alone. Instead, learn to celebrate it. Because the moment you find joy in your own presence, no one's absence will ever have the power to control you again. True freedom begins the moment you realize that your happiness, your peace, and your sense of worth no longer depend on anyone else. As long as you keep searching for approval, attention, or love outside of yourself, you remain chained to expectations, chained to disappointments, chained to the constant rise and fall of how others treat you. But when you learn to love yourself more than anyone else, those chains fall away. You no longer live in reaction to the world. You begin to live in alignment with your own truth. For many, this sounds simple. Yet it feels impossible because from a young age, we are taught to measure our value by comparison. How others see us, what others think, how many friends we have, who stays, who leaves. We give away pieces of ourselves just to be accepted. But in doing so, we lose sight of the most important relationship we will ever have, the relationship with ourselves. And until that relationship is strong, every other connection will feel fragile. Loving yourself deeply is not about ignoring others, nor is it about arrogance. It is about releasing dependence. It is about reaching a point where you are no longer desperate for someone to tell you who you are, because you already know. You don't need someone to validate your beauty, your intelligence, your strength, because you have already embraced it within yourself. This kind of love is not loud. It does not need to be shouted. It is quiet, calm, steady, like a flame that never burns out, no matter the wind. And here is where freedom enters. When you love yourself more than anyone else, you stop begging for attention. You stop chasing after those who ignore you. You stop shrinking yourself for fear of being abandoned. You carry yourself differently. You walk into rooms without needing to prove yourself because your presence alone is enough. You speak without fear of judgment because you trust your own voice. You no longer tie your value to how someone else reacts because your value has already been decided by you. Notice how many people live in the opposite way. They cling to relationships, even toxic ones, because the fear of being alone feels worse than the pain of being mistreated. They stay quiet when disrespected, hoping silence will keep the peace. They lower their standards, thinking that some love, even broken love, is better than none. But this is not freedom. This is a prison built from self-doubt. And the only key out of it is self-love. When you place yourself first, you become unshakable. That does not mean you will never feel pain, but it means pain will no longer define you. It does not mean people will never leave, but it means their leaving will no longer break you. It does not mean life will always be easy, but it means you will always return to your center because your love for yourself keeps you steady no matter what storms arrive. And the beautiful part is this. When you no longer beg for love, the love that comes to you is purer. It comes not because you need it, but because you choose it. You are not trapped by fear of losing it because you know you will never lose yourself. That is freedom. That is strength. That is the highest form of love you will ever experience. Because once you love yourself more than anyone else, you will finally realize you were never waiting for others to set you free. You were the key.